Have you ever had a moment when the universe seemed to step in just when you needed it most? That's exactly what happened to me last Friday night. Before I dive into this wild story that completely changed my life, hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever experienced a dating disaster or an unexpected connection that came out of nowhere. Trust me, you'll want to stick around until the end of this one. It was supposed to be a simple blind date at Rosario's, that trendy Italian place downtown. Instead, it became the night that would rewrite my entire future. I checked my watch for the 5th time in as many minutes. 7:45 p.m. She was 15 minutes late, but that wasn't necessarily a bad sign. Traffic downtown was always unpredictable, especially on Friday evenings when everyone was rushing to start their weekend. I took another sip of water and tried to look casual, scrolling through my phone even though I wasn't really reading anything. "Are you still waiting for someone?" the server asked with a sympathetic smile as she refilled my water glass. "Yes, she's just running a bit late," I replied, trying to sound confident. The truth was, I was beginning to wonder if I'd been stood up. My friend Mia had set me up with her coworker Vanessa, insisting we were perfect for each other. I'd been reluctant, blind dates weren't really my thing, but after 6 months of being single following a particularly painful breakup, I'd finally given in. The restaurant buzzed with energy around me. Couples leaned toward each other over candlelit tables. Friends laughed over shared plates of pasta. And there I sat, alone at a table for two, the empty chair across from me growing more conspicuous by the minute. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa: "So sorry, something came up. Can't make it tonight." No explanation. No suggestion to reschedule. Just a last-minute cancellation after I'd already been sitting alone in a packed restaurant for nearly 20 minutes. I felt a flush of embarrassment creep up my neck. The server caught my eye from across the room, and I knew she could tell from my expression that my date wasn't coming. I should just leave, I thought. But the idea of walking out, having everyone watch the stood-up guy make his exit, felt even worse than sitting there alone. I decided to order a drink, at least. One quick glass of wine, and then I'd go home and try to forget this humiliating evening had ever happened. As I raised my hand to signal the server, the door to the restaurant opened, and a woman walked in. She was striking, tall with dark curly hair cascading past her shoulders, wearing a deep blue dress that seemed to catch every bit of the restaurant's warm lighting. She spoke briefly with the host, who gestured toward the bar area with an apologetic shrug. The restaurant was fully booked, apparently. I watched as she made her way to the bar, only to find every seat taken. She stood there for a moment, looking around with a slight frown, before her eyes landed on me, or more specifically, on the empty chair across from me. Our eyes met, and I quickly looked away, embarrassed to be caught staring. I busied myself with the menu I'd already memorized, pretending I hadn't noticed her at all. "Excuse me." I looked up. She was standing beside my table, a hesitant smile on her face. "I couldn't help but notice you've been sitting alone for a while," she said. "Are you waiting for someone?" I admitted, feeling that flush of embarrassment return. But she just canceled. The woman's expression softened. "Blind date?" I nodded, surprised by her perception. "I could tell by the way you kept checking your watch and your phone," she explained. Then, with a directness that caught me off guard, she gestured to the empty chair. "If you're free, sit here." I blinked, confused. "I am sitting here." She laughed, a warm sound that seemed to cut through the ambient noise of the restaurant. "No, I meant, would you mind if I joined you? The bar's full, and I'm starving, but they don't have any tables available for at least an hour." "Oh." I felt slow, caught off guard by the unexpected turn of events. "Sure, of course." She slid into the chair across from me with a grateful smile. "I'm Eliza, by the way." "Daniel," I replied, still trying to process what was happening. Well, Daniel, I promise I'm a better dinner companion than someone who cancels at the last minute via text. She picked up the menu. So, what's good here? The server returned, clearly surprised to find me with company. She took our orders, linguine with clams for Eliza, the house special risotto for me, and a bottle of Pinot Grigio to share, and disappeared again, leaving us in a moment of awkward silence. So, I began, searching for something to say. Do you make a habit of inviting yourself to strangers' tables? Eliza laughed again. First time, actually. But you looked like you could use some company, and I could use a table. Seemed like a win-win. She tilted her head slightly. Unless you'd rather dine alone? No, this is nice, I said, surprised to find I meant it. The sting of being stood up was already fading. Unexpected, but nice. The best things usually are unexpected, she replied, pouring us each a glass of wine after the server brought the bottle. So, tell me about this blind date who missed out on your charming company tonight. I shrugged. Not much to tell. Friend of a friend. We'd never met. Maybe it's for the best. Her loss, Eliza said simply, raising her glass. To unexpected dinner companions. I clinked my glass against hers. To unexpected dinner companions. As we sipped our wine, I found myself studying her. There was something magnetic about Eliza, not just her obvious beauty, but a kind of energy that seemed to radiate from her. She caught me looking and raised an eyebrow. What? She asked. Nothing, I said quickly. Just trying to figure you out. And what have you figured out so far? I considered for a moment. You're confident. Spontaneous. Probably creative in some way. Her eyes widened slightly. Not bad. I'm a photographer. What gave it away? The way you notice details, I said. You spotted me checking my watch and phone. And there's a certain way you look at things, like you're framing them in your mind. Now it was her turn to study me. Observant, she noted. What do you do, Daniel? Are you a detective? I laughed. Nothing that exciting. I'm an architect. An architect, she repeated, looking genuinely interested. That explains the attention to structure and detail. What kind of buildings do you design? Mostly residential lately, but I'm hoping to move into more public spaces. I've always wanted to design a library or a museum, something that becomes part of the community fabric. I like that, she said. Creating spaces where people can connect with ideas and each other. Our food arrived, steaming and aromatic, momentarily pausing our conversation. As we began to eat, I realized I was actually enjoying myself. The disappointment of the blind date fiasco had completely evaporated, replaced by the unexpected pleasure of Eliza's company. This is delicious, she said after her first bite. Good restaurant choice, even if your date selection needs work. I winced dramatically. Ouch. Direct hit. She grinned. Sorry. Too soon. Maybe a little, I admitted. Though to be fair, I didn't choose her. My friend Mia did the selecting. Ah, so we should blame Mia for your dating woes. I wouldn't say woes, exactly. More like, a temporary lull in romantic success. Eliza took another sip of wine. How temporary? 6 months since my last relationship ended. Bad breakup? I hesitated, wondering how much to share with this stranger who didn't feel like a stranger anymore. Yeah, you could say that. She decided we wanted different things. Specifically, she wanted someone else. Eliza's expression softened. I'm sorry. That's rough. It was, I agreed. But it's getting better. What about you? Are you currently in a temporary lull in romantic success too? She laughed at my phrasing. I've been single for about a year now. My last relationship ended when I got an opportunity to travel for 6 months on a photography assignment. He didn't want to do long distance, and I didn't want to pass up the opportunity. Where did you go? Southeast Asia, mostly. Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. It was incredible, challenging but life-changing. That sounds amazing, I said, genuinely impressed. I've always wanted to travel more, but work keeps me pretty tied down. You should make the time, she said. There's nothing like seeing how other people live to give you perspective on your own life. As we continued to eat and talk, I found myself increasingly drawn to Eliza. She was thoughtful and articulate, with a quick wit and an easy laugh. She told me about growing up in a small town in Oregon, about her decision to move to the city 5 years ago to pursue photography professionally, about her tiny apartment filled with plants and prints of her work. In turn, I shared stories about my childhood in Chicago, my passion for architecture that began with Lego buildings, my struggle to find my own style in a field often dominated by trends and client demands. The conversation flowed effortlessly, jumping from topic to topic without ever feeling forced. By the time we finished our meal, nearly 2 hours had passed, though it felt like minutes. The server brought our check, and I reached for it automatically. "Let me get half," Eliza said, opening her purse. "Absolutely not," I replied. "You rescued me from a very sad, lonely dinner. The least I can do is pay for your meal." She looked like she wanted to argue but then smiled. "All right, but next time it's on me." "Next time." The words hung between us, full of possibility. "Deal," I said, trying to keep my voice casual while my heart did a little skip. Outside the restaurant, the night air was cool and crisp. The street was busy with Friday night revelers, but somehow it felt like Eliza and I were in our own little bubble. "Which way are you headed?" I asked, not quite ready for the evening to end. "I'm over on Maple Street," she said. "About a 15-minute walk." "I'm heading that direction too," I said, though my apartment was actually in the opposite direction. "Mind if I walk with you?" She smiled, seeing through my transparent lie. "I'd like that." We walked slowly, continuing our conversation as if we hadn't just spent 2 hours talking already. The city lights reflected in puddles from an earlier rain shower, making everything look a little magical. When her hand brushed against mine, I took a chance and gently took hold of it. She didn't pull away. "This is me," she said eventually, stopping in front of a converted warehouse building with large windows. "Thanks for walking me home. And for dinner." "Thanks for saving me from dining alone," I replied. "I had a really great time tonight, Eliza." "So did I," she said softly. We stood there for a moment, the air between us charged with unspoken possibilities. Then, before I could overthink it, I leaned in and kissed her. Her lips were soft against mine, and she tasted faintly of wine and the tiramisu we'd shared for dessert. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. "I'd really like to see you again," I said. "I'd like that too." She pulled out her phone. "Give me your number." As I recited my number, watching her enter it into her contacts, I marveled at the strange twist of fate that had brought us together. If Vanessa had shown up for our blind date, I never would have met Eliza. Sometimes, I thought, the universe knows exactly what it's doing. "I'll call you," she promised, giving me one more quick kiss before heading inside. I walked home with a lightness in my step that I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. The night had started with disappointment but had transformed into something unexpected and wonderful. I couldn't wait to see where it might lead. I didn't have to wait long. Eliza texted me the very next morning, suggesting we meet for coffee that afternoon. From there, things moved quickly. Coffee led to a walk in the park, which led to dinner the following weekend, which led to a photography exhibition the weekend after that. Each time we met, I discovered something new about her that fascinated me. The way she could spend 20 minutes photographing a single flower, finding beauty in angles most people would never notice. Her passion for social justice, which informed much of her professional work. Her ability to make friends with strangers wherever we went, drawing people out with genuine interest and warmth. And she seemed equally intrigued by me, by my detailed sketches of buildings I admired, by my collection of architectural models that filled my apartment, by my stories of growing up with 3 sisters who had taught me more about life than any formal education ever could. 3 weeks after our first meeting, we were sitting on a bench overlooking the river, sharing a container of gelato as the sun began to set. Eliza had been quiet for the past few minutes, seemingly lost in thought as she watched the changing colors of the sky. "Penny, for your thoughts?" I asked, nudging her gently with my shoulder. She turned to look at me, her expression serious. "I got offered a job." "That's great," I said, then noticed her continued solemnity. "Isn't it?" "It's in San Francisco," she said quietly. "A 6-month contract with National Geographic, documenting the changing urban landscape of the Bay Area." "Oh." The word fell between us, heavy with implication. San Francisco was over 2,000 miles away. "When would you start?" 2 weeks from now." I nodded slowly, trying to process this unexpected development. We'd only known each other for a short time, but already the thought of her leaving created a hollow feeling in my chest. "It's an amazing opportunity," I said finally, because it was true, and because I knew how much her career meant to her. "It is," she agreed. But... She set the gelato aside and turned to face me fully. "But I really like what's happening between us, Daniel. And I'm not sure I want to walk away from it just as it's beginning." My heart lifted slightly. "I really like what's happening between us too." "So what do we do?" she asked. "Try long distance. Take a break and see where we both are in 6 months. Pretend these past few weeks never happened." I considered each option, none of them appealing. Long distance was hard even for established couples. For a new relationship, it seemed almost impossible. Taking a break felt like giving up before we'd really started. And pretending we'd never met? That was unthinkable. "What if I came with you?" The words were out of my mouth before I'd fully formed the thought. Eliza's eyes widened. "To San Francisco? But what about your job? Your life here?" It was a valid question. I had a good position at a respected architectural firm. I had friends here, a nice apartment, a comfortable routine. But suddenly, none of that seemed as important as exploring whatever this thing with Eliza might become. "I could take a leave of absence," I said, the idea taking shape as I spoke. "Or maybe even transfer to our San Francisco office. We've been talking about expanding our West Coast presence anyway." "You'd do that? For me?" She looked both touched and concerned. "We've only known each other for 3 weeks, Daniel." "I know it sounds crazy," I admitted. "But sometimes you just know when something feels right. And this, it feels right to me. Worth taking a chance on, at least." She was quiet for a long moment, studying my face as if searching for any sign of doubt or hesitation. Then, slowly, she smiled. "It feels right to me too," she said softly. "But I don't want you to uproot your entire life on a whim. That's too much pressure on both of us. What if we compromise?" I suggested. "I'll talk to my firm about working remotely for a month or 2. I'll come to San Francisco with you, get a short-term rental, and we'll see how things go. If it works out, great. If not, no harm done. I come back here, you finish your contract, and we both move on knowing we gave it a real shot." Eliza considered this, then nodded slowly. "That could work. It's still a big step, but not an irreversible one." "Exactly," I said, feeling a surge of excitement at the prospect. "Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith." She leaned in and kissed me, her lips curved into a smile. "You're full of surprises, Daniel," says the woman who invited herself to my table 3 weeks ago, I teased. Best decision I ever made, she replied, resting her head on my shoulder as we watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. I spoke with my boss, who was surprisingly supportive of my request to work remotely for 2 months, with the understanding that I'd fly back for important client meetings. I found a sublet in San Francisco not far from where Eliza would be staying, packed up the essentials, and arranged for my sister to check on my apartment while I was gone. Eliza was busy too, finalizing details with National Geographic, researching the neighborhoods she'd be documenting, and preparing her equipment for the assignment. Despite our hectic schedules, we managed to spend most evenings together, growing closer with each passing day. The night before our flight to San Francisco, we had dinner at Rosario's, returning to where it all began. We sat at the same table, ordered the same dishes, and toasted to the strange twist of fate that had brought us together. Do you ever think about what would have happened if your blind date had actually shown up that night? Eliza asked, twirling linguine around her fork. Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember that even if she had, would have spent the whole evening wishing I was with someone else. You didn't even know me then, Eliza pointed out with a smile. No, but I think some part of me was waiting for you anyway. I reached across the table to take her hand. I'm just glad you were bold enough to invite yourself to my table. Best decision I ever made, she repeated, echoing her words from the night by the river. As we left the restaurant, hand in hand, I couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed in just 3 weeks. I'd gone from being stood up on a blind date to preparing to follow a woman I was falling for to another city. Life was unpredictable that way, sometimes the worst moments led directly to the best ones. San Francisco welcomed us with fog and a cool breeze, so different from the humid heat we'd left behind. Our first week was busy with settling in, Eliza meeting her new colleagues and beginning her project, me setting up a workstation in my sublet and connecting remotely with my team back home. Despite our separate responsibilities, we made time for each other every day. In the evenings, we explored the city together, discovering hidden gems in each neighborhood. On weekends, we ventured further afield, driving down the coast or up to wine country, always with Eliza's camera in hand, capturing moments I knew I'd want to remember forever. Working remotely had its challenges, but it also offered unexpected benefits. Without the distractions of the office, I found myself more focused and productive. The change of scenery sparked new ideas, and I began sketching concepts for buildings inspired by San Francisco's unique architecture, projects that excited me more than anything I'd worked on in years. Eliza thrived in her new role. I loved watching her work, the way she interacted with the people she photographed, drawing out their stories with genuine interest and respect. Her photographs captured not just the changing physical landscape of the city but the human element as well, the lives affected by gentrification, the communities fighting to preserve their identities, the individuals finding ways to adapt and thrive amid constant change. 1 month into our San Francisco adventure, I received an unexpected call from my boss. "Daniel, how's the West Coast treating you?" he asked after we'd exchanged pleasantries. "Really well," I replied honestly. "The remote work setup is working better than I expected." "Glad to hear it. Listen, I'm calling because an interesting opportunity has come up. You know we've been talking about expanding our presence in San Francisco for a while now." "Yes," I said cautiously, not sure where this was heading. "Well, we've decided to move forward with it. We're opening a small office there, and we need someone to head it up. Someone who knows our firm's philosophy and style, but who also has fresh ideas and a willingness to take risks." I sat up straighter. "Are you offering me the position?" "I am," he confirmed. "It would mean relocating permanently, of course. Building a team from scratch. A lot of responsibility. But also a lot of freedom to shape the direction of the office." My mind raced. This was an incredible opportunity professionally, the kind of advancement that might have taken years to achieve otherwise. And personally, well, it would mean I could stay in San Francisco with Eliza, at least until her contract ended. After that, who knew? Can I think about it? I asked, though I already knew what my answer would be. Take a few days, he said. But don't take too long. We want to move quickly on this. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence for several minutes. When Eliza came home that evening, I was still processing the news. What's wrong? She asked immediately, noticing my distracted state. I explained the offer, watching her expression shift from concern to surprise to cautious excitement. That's amazing, Daniel, she said when I finished. It's perfect timing. It is, I agreed. But it's also a big commitment. Moving here permanently is different from a 2-month trial run. She sat beside me on the couch, taking my hands in hers. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I want to take it, I admitted. It's an incredible opportunity professionally. And personally. I hesitated, suddenly aware of how vulnerable I was about to make myself. Personally, I want to be where you are, Eliza. I know it's only been 2 months, but I'm falling in love with you. The words hung between us, honest and exposed. For a moment, Eliza was silent, and I feared I'd said too much too soon. Then she smiled, her eyes bright with emotion. I'm falling in love with you too, she said softly. But I don't want you to make this decision just for me. Your career matters too. It's not just for you, I assured her. This is a great move for my career. The fact that it also means I get to be with you makes it perfect, not a sacrifice. She leaned in to kiss me, a gentle, affirming kiss that felt like a promise. Then I think you should take it. Yeah. Yeah. She smiled. Besides, I have a confession to make. What's that? National Geographic has already asked if I'd be interested in extending my contract for another 6 months after this one ends. They want to expand the project to include other Bay Area cities. My heart leapt. And what did you say? I told them I needed to think about it, she said. But now I think I'll say yes. I pulled her into my arms, overwhelmed with happiness. So we're really doing this? Both staying in San Francisco? Looks that way, she said, her smile radiant. Who would have thought a terrible blind date would lead to this? The universe works in mysterious ways, I replied, thinking back to that fateful night at Rosario's. If Vanessa had shown up, if Eliza hadn't been bold enough to approach my table, if I hadn't been open to the unexpected, none of this would be happening now. 6 months later, Eliza and I moved in together, finding a cozy apartment in a neighborhood we both loved. My new role heading the San Francisco office was challenging but rewarding, allowing me to finally design the kind of public spaces I'd always dreamed of creating. Eliza's extended contract with National Geographic led to a permanent position, her photographs gaining recognition and acclaim throughout the industry. On our 1-year anniversary, I took her back to the city where we'd met, to the restaurant where it all began. I'd arranged everything in advance, the same table, the same server, who remembered us, amazingly, the same dishes we'd ordered that first night. This is perfect, Eliza said, looking around with a nostalgic smile. I can't believe it's been a year already. Best year of my life, I told her honestly. As we finished our meal, I reached into my pocket, fingers closing around the small velvet box I'd been carrying all evening. My heart pounded as I prepared to take another leap of faith, the biggest one yet. Eliza, I began, my voice steady despite my nerves. A year ago, I was sitting at this table alone, feeling sorry for myself because a blind date hadn't shown up. And then you walked in and changed everything. Her eyes widened as she realized what was happening. You taught me to embrace the unexpected, I continued. To take chances. To follow my heart even when my head says it's crazy. I slid from my chair to one knee beside the table, opening the box to reveal the vintage emerald ring I'd chosen, knowing she'd prefer something unique over a traditional diamond. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love another person. Will you marry me? The restaurant had gone quiet around us, other diners watching with anticipation. Eliza's eyes filled with tears, but her smile was radiant. "Yes," she said, her voice clear and certain. "Yes, I'll marry you." As I slipped the ring onto her finger and the restaurant erupted in applause, I thought about all the twists and turns that had led us to this moment. The blind date that never happened. The bold woman who'd asked to share my table. The job offer that had taken us to a new city. The countless small decisions and chances that had aligned to create this perfect, improbable love story. Sometimes the worst moments in life, the disappointments, the rejections, the plans that fall through, are actually redirecting us towards something better than we could have imagined. My terrible blind date had led me to the love of my life, sitting at the very next table. 6 months after our engagement, we were married in a small ceremony overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, surrounded by friends and family who had traveled from across the country to celebrate with us. Mia, who had set me up on that fateful blind date, served as Eliza's maid of honor, a fitting role for the person who had inadvertently brought us together. During the reception, Mia pulled me aside, a mischievous glint in her eye. "You know, I ran into Vanessa last month." "Oh?" I said, surprised to hear the name of the woman who had stood me up that night. "I told her about you and Eliza," Mia continued. "Showed her your engagement photos. You know what she said?" I shook my head, curious despite myself. "She said, 'I guess everything happens for a reason.'" Mia grinned. "I think that's the understatement of the century." I laughed, looking across the room to where Eliza was chatting with my parents, her face animated as she told them some story, her hands gesturing expressively. She caught my eye and smiled, a private smile just for me. "Definitely an understatement," I agreed. Later that night, as Eliza and I swayed together for our first dance as a married couple, I whispered in her ear, "Thank you for being bold enough to ask a stranger if you could sit at his table." She leaned back to look at me, her eyes shining with happiness. "Thank you for saying yes." "Best decision I ever made," I told her, echoing the words she'd said to me so many times. As we continued to dance, surrounded by the people we loved in the city that had become our home, I marveled at the strange, wonderful path that had led us here. A terrible blind date had become the best thing that ever happened to me, all because the girl at the next table had been brave enough to say, "If you're free, sit here." Sometimes, the most beautiful stories begin with disappointment. Sometimes, the worst moments lead directly to the best ones. And sometimes, the love of your life is sitting at the very next table, just waiting for the right moment to enter your story. So there you have it, the story of how a dating disaster turned into the greatest love story of my life. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's that sometimes the universe has better plans for us than we could ever imagine for ourselves. When one door closes, don't just look for another door, look around for windows, skylights, or even people sitting at nearby tables who might just change your life forever. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life tales of unexpected connections and second chances. And remember, the next time something doesn't go according to plan, it might just be the universe making room for something even better.